Hey, welcome to Filler. I'm Joe.
And I'm Steve.
And we are back with the penultimate episode of our Bruce series. How are you feeling about that, Steve?
A little fatigued, to be honest.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
You know, the 2010s, there's only 3 albums, and kind of a mixed bag yet again. Definitely some surprises, I'd say, with this decade. There was one album I didn't think I would like as much as I did. One that I knew I wasn't going to like, and one that I was a little worried wasn't going to be as good as I remember. So,
Sounds like Monty agrees with you.
yeah, Marty's heckling again.
Yeah. I'm, what's the word? Not relieved. I'm validated that you feel fatigued by going through all of it, because I'm coming from my end of not being a fan and trying to be a fan and continuously trying to give good grace and good just benefit of the doubt has been exhausting because he continuously lets me down.
Okay.
And
I don't know what to say anymore. I don't just fucking give up.
I think, and we'll get more into it on our last episode when we get to it. But I think even when you, as a mega fan, say this is yet another mixed bag, I think that's kind of telling about him as an artist. I think.
Well, for 121 albums is a lot for anybody. It's just a lot of anything. Like we were both getting exhausted at 10 Blink-182 albums, and this is double that.
Right.
And that was a pretty mixed bag throughout too.
I think ultimately I will disagree with you, because I think there are albums of Blink-182's that I think are trash and are bad. But ultimately, I'm curious to see what the ratio is of quality for me when we get down to it, because I think I've given Bruce a lot of leeway and have been very patient with it. And it's just, I don't think it's for me. Whereas on the Blink albums, I think I was colder on them when we came back to them, mostly due to age. But when it was really like a trash album, I was ready to say it's a trash album.
Yeah.
Which I think speaks to my honesty when I'm coming at Bruce, because I'm ready to call like not my heroes, but like the band of my youth out on their bullshit. That means I think I'll give due diligence and the chance to Bruce as we go through it.
And that's part of why I've done the same, I think, with Bruce, because I don't know, I guess where I'm landing on Bruce is that the bad albums aren't enough for me to dislike him or come out negative, even when I'm looking at the whole discography and recognizing there's a lot of stuff on here that I don't need to listen to again, that I can skip, you know. But it is a different kind of artist than someone like Blink-182, because they've been around for 30 years and Bruce has been around for 50. And like, you know, the Blink guys are middle-aged. Bruce is old now. So like, What are you really gonna expect from somebody that's making records in their 60s and 70s? Which is why, to kick off this decade, I think Wrecking Ball is very interesting. Because in Bruce's book, he says, I really thought I had it with this one, and I still do think so. But critics didn't really seem to think so. You know, it still went number 1, but what does that really matter in the streaming age? You know, going number 1, you know, in like 2012, you know, before like records really started to pick up in sales again on like vinyl, and you know, CD sales were sharply declining. But listening to it, this was never an album that I had much reverence for. There were some songs on there, one in particular that was like a very old song that he finally released for the first time on an album. But other than that, I was like, I don't know if I really cared about this when it came out.
Okay.
Listening now and historically, I was very pleasantly surprised.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. This was March 6th, 2012's Wrecking Ball. It's inspired by the crash and recession of 2008 and the Occupy Wall Street movement, and anger toward the rise of unregulated capitalism bringing America to a new gilded age, and a desire to listen to the ghosts of those who died fighting for social justice. But what I think is really interesting about Bruce thinking he had it with this one and being like disappointed and is still proud of it to this day
Hmm.
shows that even in his 60s, he still thinks like I should try. I should try to make a record that could be a hit, even though he's well past the age of somebody that makes hit songs and hit albums.
Yeah.
Uh, he really put effort into it, and I respect that a lot. I think, is it a little delusional? Maybe, but it's also kind of cool just to see someone not just phoning it in,
Yeah.
especially compared to the next record, but we'll get to that. And also, this is the last album with Clarence Clemens before his death following complications
Hmm.
from a massive stroke, to which Bruce said losing him was like losing the rain.
Hmm.
And man, if I ever had a homoerotic straight relationship that amazing, I think my life would be fulfilled.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that song that really speaks to Clarence when we get there.
Yeah.
Um, I am with you on him trying stuff. I do appreciate that. I feel like he has phoned it in. There have been
Yeah.
times where you can hear he like doesn't give a crap, where
Hmm.
he's written that song before or that melody is all too close to other ones that he's used.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. As he gets older, actually, I think I probably appreciate him more so for not phoning it in.
Hmm.
Whereas in his middle age, mostly the '90s, aside from Tom Joad,
Yeah.
the '90s were phoned in
Yeah.
100%.
And even then, Tom Joad is so focused on the lyrics that like the music takes a back seat, and
Hmm.
that can be a matter of preference thing, but it's still kind of an issue. And it's like, okay, this is an album; it could use some more melody. That would be nice,
Yeah,
but at least there is still some care in it. Whereas I didn't really feel any of that effort on Human Touch and Lucky Town. Maybe a little more
agreed.
on Lucky Town,
Yeah,
but
agreed.
yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
I think what I appreciate about him as well, and I don't know if I ever said it out loud to you, but I think it's something that I've like really come to on Wrecking Ball. I definitely touched on it with either Magic or Working on a Dream. I think Working on a Dream because that was the one I preferred because I
Mhm.
thought yeah, Magic was garbage.
I think you have that backwards.
Really? I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember my own. I see. There's too much. There's too much that I can't even keep track of it anymore. Yeah, I do have that backwards. Yeah, I put Magic first. Yes. Sorry. Thank you for catching me. So
Yeah.
I think on Magic, I was noting it more than I on Working on a Dream. Was that in the 2000s he starts to make music that he thinks is popular at the time.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I'm not coming at him at all. Actually, in all honesty, I think that's really, really good that he's keeping up to date with what is popular so that he doesn't rest on his laurels. Now, the thing with him is that when he writes a Bruce Springsteen song, and you know what I mean by that, like, with like
Hmm.
the big composition, the grandiosity, the horn section, the backup singers, like the throwaway guitar solo, but you know exactly when it's going to come, like all these different things,
Hmm.
it still sounds like a Bruce Springsteen song. This album, he starts entering the Mumford and Sons era with his stomp claps, and I appreciated it the first time because I was like, oh, that's a fun novelty. We have a new rim shots, we have a new sleigh bells, and it's the stomp claps. But
Hmm.
when he gets set on something, he just doesn't let it go, and he really just beats it to death. And that this is gonna go down as the stomp claps album for me.
Yeah.
Which on some songs it worked, and some songs it really aged it, much like all of Mumford and Sons discography.
Yeah. I, I definitely see that. I think I've never been a big fan of the stomp clap thing, even when it was big. I thought it got formulaic so quickly. I could appreciate some Mumford and Sons, but I never got into like the Lumineers or anything. I thought they were kind of annoying.
Me too.
And then when like fucking American authors or ex ambassadors come along, I'm like, I don't care. This is so. It sounds like it's made directly for a Toyota commercial.
That's funny. You've hit a new level of the stomp clap iceberg that I have not descended to because I don't even know
It
who
was
they are.
completely against my will too. That's the thing. It's like I just hear it and I think like this sounds like yeah, like a car company made this in a lab
Hmm.
to sell cars.
Well, fortunately, I don't think Wrecking Ball sounds like that. I
Hmm.
don't think it doesn't feel like it was made in a lab. It truly felt like he put like listens to the radio every morning, and he was like, all right, these are the guys that are doing it right now. How can I do that through me? And then he went and made a record, and he just doubled down on it too hard.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell there's some effort in the like it's a very different presentation on the album cover with that like spray
Hmm.
painted looking word art where
Yeah.
his name is cut off and it's all
Yep.
messy and it's him with the guitar but it's like a side shot and he's wearing black and holding up the guitar everyone knows. I remember seeing it when it came out and thinking like this is different for Bruce and then
I think
listening
this is
to
my
it.
favorite album art since Tunnel of Love.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely up there. There was a lot of bad stuff in between there, so yeah, bar was kind of low, but yeah, no, it is. It feels like it has a vision, and when you listen to it, I think
Hmm.
it does. And there's something about angry Bruce that I just really like. You know, he's really pissed off on this album way more so than Magic.
Okay, before we get into each song, because I do want to get into them,
Hmm.
I'm glad you said that because I think me as a person and my politics, I think there is a Venn diagram between me and Bruce.
Hmm.
I think I'm probably more left than he is, but the things he says and the things how he holds himself, his values, there is 100% there is alignment between us,
Yeah.
right? So when you went over the thesis of the album, right? I'm sitting here nodding my head, and everything you're saying, I'm looking at my notes on the album. He doesn't sound angry enough to me.
Hmm.
Like I want him to be mad, and so I'm glad that you're getting that anger from him. And there's songs where I feel the anger more than others, but overall, I feel like you should be so much more pissed off than a stomp clap album. And I don't mean that to like just rest on that as like the one thing. Like if you're going to be writing an album that is coming at Wall Street, that
Hmm.
is coming at one percenters, right?
Hmm.
Even though he's not far
He's
off from
close. Yeah.
1%, right? Um, I'm surprised that he chooses to go with this genre. I get it, even if he's like trying to fit in and trying to like get a hit and challenge that. There's just like cognitive dissonance there for me. I kind of really wish this was a punk album.
Yeah, the closest he's ever really gotten to a punk album was Parts of Darkness on the Edge of Town,
Yeah,
where he cites the Clash as a major influence,
yeah.
and he's covered London Calling at concerts and stuff. And I don't know, like I kind of had the same thought. I was like, what would this sound like if Bruce was going punk? And I think I don't know if it's his age or if he's trying to make a point by relating it back to more Americana sounding rock music
Hmm.
to weaponize American sounding like classic American sounds as a kind of protest vehicle. I don't know, maybe fight like butting heads against like what people think America is by showing it in a rootsier way or relating to people in a rootsier way with that sound. Maybe that's why. Maybe he started to just. I mean, really, the song that started him writing this album was Easy Money, and that
Hmm.
had a very particular flair to it. And he started to build the album around that, and that's where they finally start to fit the Land of Hope and Dreams in. So, yeah, I don't know if it works stylistically. I certainly don't like every song, but
Yeah,
I think the intention is there.
yeah. I'm with you on that. This
Yeah.
this album feels intentional, and I applaud the intention. This is one of those like A for effort albums for me that I can say. Well, I'll say it later. Let's go through the songs.
Yeah, let's go through the songs quick. We Take Care of Our Own is the opening track. Surprisingly starts with like a really simple but solid four on the floor thing from Max Weinberg. And you can tell right away that it sounds bigger
Yeah.
in a way that like Max is usually kind of understated as a drummer. Keeps things very simple. But just the mixing on the drums sounds different. It sounds like an announcement, you know.
This is not Brendan O'Brien anymore, right?
I think it still is. I actually can't remember. Uh, I want to say that it is, but somebody mixed some of the songs. I think it was Bob Clearmountain. I think. I think
Okay.
that's his name. Um, but what really stands out about the song is like it's meant to be as sarcastic and scathing as Born in the USA, the title track
Hmm.
from that album. But I'd
Yep.
say it's even easier to misconstrue until the bridge where it becomes
Yeah.
clear. It's because he's in his repetitive era, right? He's saying a
Yep.
lot of things over and over again. And like the chorus is just, we take care of our own. We take care of our own
Yep.
wherever this flag's flown, you know? Like there's not a whole lot of muscle behind it until he gets to the bridge where he starts to get wordy and
Yeah.
asking questions about the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that we're all promised and denied. And it's like, okay, now I see it. Maybe I wasn't picking up on your sarcasm before, but now I
Yeah.
see what you're really saying here. And I think it's interesting because when my dad heard this album at first, he was like, I don't like this album that much. That first song is kind of a little too like rah rah patriotic. And I was like, oh my God, you did the exact same thing people did with Born in the USA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe that falls on Bruce for not conveying it properly, or maybe it's just going over people's heads. I don't know.
I'm glad that that bridge was there because people missed it so much with Born in the USA.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm gonna give him some of your some of Maudie really wants to be in this conversation. Um, I'm gonna give him some of your grace and say that I think he took the note from how people misconstrued Born in the USA, and then he
Mhm.
wrote a similar song indicting a people or a group of people, even though it sounds like it's celebrating them. And then he almost made it explicit that, hey, this is not a good song. I'm not celebrating these people, and I need
Yeah.
you to know that. I don't want that to be unclear anymore.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, even though it still might have missed the mark. I thought it was fine. I thought it was the same old, but it sounded nice and it's catchy. So I thought it was a fine way to start the album.
Yeah. Solid opener, kind of a definitive sounding modern E Street song, um, which you can take the good with the bad there, and that like it's solid, but maybe a little generic.
Yeah,
I do think it's funny that the older Bruce gets, the more like old man, no filter he's
yeah,
getting, especially about his politics, because now he's like on tour in the UK openly bashing Trump and like
which I think is
saying
great.
how terrifying things are over here, but that there's hope if we fight against it. And I'm just happy to have somebody over there representing America saying like, no, we don't like this. Like,
Yeah,
please don't give up on us and start hating us because like we don't want what's happening.
yeah. Honestly, I know this might sound like a hot take coming from me. I'm glad it's him.
Yeah.
I think other people would be like immediately to go for it. I'd probably be anti him before having started this series, but now having gone through it and seeing how he's grown and changed, go be America's spokesperson. You truly can't be as bad as any of our representatives. So I'll
Yeah.
take Bruce over the rest of you all.
Seriously.
So you said that he started the album with Easy Money. I
Yeah.
actually really did not like this song,
Me either.
and it's just because it's not my genre. It brought me back to what was the song, the 9/11 Swamp song.
Oh, Into the Fire.
Yeah, it brought me back to that kind of vibe, and
Mhm.
I don't know, man. Unless you're Miles, Catan, Caton, whatever, don't pick up a slide guitar, like just especially a slide acoustic guitar. I did not want to hear it,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a fine song. I'm like not gonna knock it in a structural or meaningful way because it's fine, but I'm not for me.
Yeah, I think it's so yeah, it started as a stream of consciousness writing while he was driving, which we've all been there, just kind of like humming something to ourselves and then moment of inspiration. I don't know what about this really spoke to him to be like, oh, I need to really flesh this out because like I put on my coat or you put on your coat, I put on my hat, I put out the dog, you put out the cat.
Yeah,
and then he says it all again later.
Yeah.
It's like, I get, that that it's got this underlying anger at the exploitation of the wealthy over regular people, and it's building off the like folk inspired elements of the last album to be more of a musical theme or thesis for this one. But I don't think the song's that strong and it carries the ideas very well.
I don't know, man. Old man
Yeah.
rhymes at clouds. That's what it sounds like to me. Like,
Yeah, and then you get to Shackled and Drawn, and it's kind of the same. I mean,
yep.
I think this is about trying to instill a hard work ethic in a future generation that sees less point in having it when the rewards aren't there anymore. Either I'm projecting my zillennialness on it, or Bruce is more in touch with young people than you'd think. But then he makes an old sounding song, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, that kind of loses it. You'd
That's
never
why-
know that he
yeah.
cares about younger people by making music for old people.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. I don't get it. He still has I'm not going to say my vote of confidence, but he still has my benefit of the doubt right now on Wrecking Ball. Because I'm appreciating his compositional choices. Again, it's not for me. Did you end up watching the video I linked to?
Oh no, was it the
No.
Lorax thing?
The Lorax one, yeah. He 100%, he sounds like the Lorax villain because there's a part at the end of the Lorax, all of the townspeople in the Lorax are singing, let it grow, because they're talking about growing more trees.
Yeah.
And so the villain is a capitalist who wants to shut it all down because he'll make money for whatever reasons of opening factories and all that crap. So it looks for a second like, spoilers for the Lorax, the old movie. It looks for a second like he's going to agree with the people of the town. And he's being very, very sincere. And he's almost breaks into song. And so he goes, that's why I say, actually, you know what? Never mind. He's about to say let it grow. And he goes, let it die, let it die. And I was like, that sounds exactly like Bruce. Like the gravelly voice and the melody sound like "Let It Die" from this villain. Yeah, I think I'm gonna link that video because people should go watch the Lorax, even if it's just to cry a little bit at the end when Danny DeVito speaks for the trees.
Is that the movie that has the Onceler in
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
The like hipster dude that all those girls on Tumblr were obsessed with when the movie came out.
Yes. Jack of all trades.
Jack of all trades. I've heard this referred to as a spiritual sequel to Racing in the Street.
Okay.
This is the third song in a row with references to bankers, particularly them getting fatter while the working man gets thinner. But now he's touching on the cycle that this operates on. He's trying to keep hope for working people that things could get better, but would still love to shoot the bastards on sight. And I was worried that the song wouldn't earn its length, but I think it does. I think this is a very beautiful, haunting, angry song.
I agree with you aside from the length. I thought it was so long at both 4 minutes and 6 minutes. I'm sorry, at 4 of 6 minutes. It should have come, if it was 5 minutes, I could have done it. But like that extra minute really, really killed me. But that's just who he is.
Yeah,
and
he really does not pare things down.
No, and it literally never. And yeah, I didn't look at it so much in terms of the lyrics because I see everything you're saying. I actually thought of this more so from his point of view, just by the title and the way he's singing it emotively, is that he himself is a jack of all trades because he kind of runs the gamut of genre. And it's just sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes he tries something and it really, really misses. I'm talking about that rap verse on the next album, and we'll get there. But then sometimes it really, really works, like the East West song that I forget the name of it.
Oh, Worlds Apart.
Worlds Apart. Yeah. Sometimes it really, really works when you think it's gonna miss. So I like this one, even though at first I was like kind of sardonic, and I was like, oh, I remember when I learned how to play piano because like that's the dumbest easy arpeggio in the world. But then I was like, I appreciate this. Like I'm good with it. Just 5 minutes, Bruce. No, you don't need a 6 minute song every time.
Yeah. Especially when it compares to Racing in the Street, which is like 6 or 7 minutes, and like that earns every second.
Yeah.
That is hard to live up to.
It's unnecessary, and I think he needs to stop trying to live up to his glory. days.
Oh,
So we're back to stomp clap bullshit on Debt to My Hometown.
yeah,
I
but he's really angry on this one.
He's really angry, but I tuned out. It just sounded so dumb. It sounded so dumb to me that I didn't care. I was like, ah. And I know he's angry because I could hear the lyrics. Like this one, I was like, yeah, I get what you're saying. I understand. I'm not knocking the intent, knocking your meaning, but like everything is like boots, claps, boots, and it's just like everything does not need to be this.
You know, I hear what you're saying. But weirdly, this was the song where it started to click with me that I like this album more than I remember. I think I was
Okay.
just kind of able to just kind of look past some of the dumber lyrics on some of these earlier songs because by this song and the last one, I was really starting to like feel what he's going for. You know, plus
Do
like,
you actually mean the last one, or do you mean what should have been the last one?
oh no, I mean the previous song, the
Oh,
previous to
okay.
this. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, we will get to that. Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, it's just about the destruction of Middle America and a rallying cry for everyone who feels it. You know, this is when people say, you know, he's a voice of the people, voice of Americans and stuff like this is the shit I look to, you know,
Yeah.
and I like that. Plus, I mean, I don't know, it's just a cheat code to get me to like you by saying like fuck the rich, you know.
Yeah.
But then the next song is called This Depression, and it makes you ask, is this about economic recession or personal medical depression?
That was my exact question. That was my.
And
I didn't know what it was about.
and the answer is yes.
Yeah, yeah, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And that's why
It's
I can
both.
relate.
Yeah. But I also noticed on this song that they're really changing up the guitar tones on this record, and I appreciate
Yeah.
that because he doesn't
Yes.
do that all the time.
Yeah, I have the same exact note. I actually get a little off kilter when people do this, even though I do appreciate it. The guitars sound really, really wide on this song.
Yeah.
Just like it's just so far apart, and it makes me feel like off balance, but it also sounds so cool. So if I'm sitting down, I'm with it, but if I'm walking, I'm like, ooh, this is
Yeah.
like a little off for me. But yeah, this was the first song that I was like, I am actually into. Totally. Now I have no complaints. I thought the confession depression rhyme is dumb, but honestly, I'm not. That's me nitpicking at that point.
Yeah. And then we get to the title track, Wrecking Ball, which is like a country punk song. And I love it. I think
Yeah.
this song is awesome. I think this is way more true about earning the length for this song because it's like pretty long.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of his best title tracks ever. Like it sums
Yeah.
up like the messaging of the album overall. It's even got like nods to Jersey and stuff. And it's just very much like what you expect of him for a new Bruce album, like very much like the hallmarks of who he is, but with this kind of renewed fervor that's marrying old classic country to like faster punk energy and just kind of reminding you he still got it. And I really like the song.
Yeah. This was one of the few Bruce songs where I thought that the melodies and dynamics were strong enough to warrant its length.
Yeah.
It didn't need the stomp clap. That felt like he shoehorned that in there to fit in line with the album / what he thinks is popular at the time. And this is actually the song where I came to that realization because it was just all over all these other ones. And then finally, when he put it on the title track, I was like, oh, you're trying to let everyone know you can keep up with the youngins. And that's fine. You can keep up with them, but like you don't have to. You're not running the same race. So I don't need you to do that on every song. But that couldn't really ruin it for me.
The next song is You've Got It. I said that the vocal delivery reminds me of parts of The River in Nebraska, and that even the filler on this album is pretty good. I don't remember it, but I must have liked it at the time.
I essentially have the same note. It sounds like the same thing he's been doing for the last 40 years, which is serviceable, and it's just slower because he's getting older. So,
Yep.
yeah, no issues. Rocky Ground. Rocky Ground was bad. That was
Yeah.
that was a stinker.
So I want to like it because him calling out the hypocrisy of Christians toward the sins of the rich, that's a way to my heart too, you know. But what the unholy fuck is that, a rap verse? like I want to know if that's one of his usual backup singers or a guest vocalist, but like I I can forgive the stomp clap thing,
Mm-hmm.
but the day Bruce Springsteen starts embracing rap into his music is the day you know he's jumped the shark, because I feel like for someone who's been through the 70s and 80s and into the 90s and even kind of embarrassed himself in the 90s, he's still never done that.
Mm-hmm.
And especially at a time when like every stupid commercial and like and even like out of touch movies now will we're gonna make the Looney Tunes rap, because oh, isn't that funny? It like trying to touch on a cultural thing and just being like, oh, we got to get in on that because the kids like it. But this is probably the exact wrong time to do that because it's
Yeah.
like it's been so long since the formation of hip hop that now you sound behind the times. But it might have worked better now that rap is like kind of taken over the popular music landscape.
Yeah.
So it was almost like the exact wrong time to do it in between two eras when it would have made sense.
Yeah. I'm good to move on. This is a
Yeah.
dumb song. This is just an all around dumb song.
Okay, but thank God we get to one of his classics right after. So, Land of Hope and Dreams. This has been a live staple for the E Street Band since the reunion, especially the live recorded version on their 1999 Live in New York City album. But this was the first album and mix where Bruce and the band felt they finally got it right to do a studio version of the song justice. And I think this is what Bob Clearmountain mixed. And as a kid who listened to that New York City live record a lot, finally hearing this come out on a studio album was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they actually kind of nailed it. Like, I think they pretty much captured what was special about the song. He's just a little bit older now, so it doesn't hit quite the same. Like, his voice is a little weakened over
Mm-hmm.
time. It doesn't have the energy of him actually being live in front of an audience. But the sax solo from Clarence Clemens is actually it's Frankenstein. He was too sick to actually record the sax solo, so it was compiled from previous archived recordings.
That's sad.
And yeah, it's awful that he couldn't have done it for this, but it's also kind of nice that they've had so much of him over the years that he could like still leave his mark
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Uh, so I'm of two minds about this song,
Mm-hmm.
and it speaks to a lot of how I feel about him, and some of that is proved on this album. So I'm kind of glad that it comes here. I get to this song, and I actually write in my notes like, "Oh, closing song, Land of Hope and Dreams is 7 minutes long, so it must be the most important thing for humanity to ever experience." Because that title, where it's coming in the track listing, everything. And he's all about the flair for the drama and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So right away, the self-importance of the song was like kind of distracting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think about closing songs like 23 on Futures for Jimmy Eat World.
Mm-hmm.
You get there after that whole album, which is awesome, and then you're like, oh, they have a long song. This is the song, and it's all about them letting go of their youth as they're growing up, and they
Mm-hmm.
nail it, and it's beautiful, and they do it again with Invented, and they do it later with Paul Roger, and they're doing that purposefully because they're saying like we're a band that closes albums with long songs. Bruce uses long songs all the time.
Yeah.
So it is very, very difficult for me to give him that grace when a long song rolls around and truly deserves the self importance that's being placed on it, which I think this one does.
Yeah.
On this same album, Wrecking Ball, you earned the self importance of almost 6 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
I know you really liked the first one that we talked about, Jack of All
Jack of
Trades.
all trades, yeah.
I don't think that one had the juice in the same way that Wrecking Ball and Land of Hope and Dreams have the juice.
Yeah.
I think that was fine for a ballad, but you don't deserve that much time, in my eyes. So it really starts to rub me the wrong way when he does this all the time, that there are these really long songs, which immediately he's saying, I have something important to say that is worth your time for this long. So you best listen. And then this one's worth it, but so many of them are not.
Yeah.
So I'm burnt out on that by now, because, and this is all like a long-winded way of saying I love this song. I really, really liked it. I agree with you. I
Yeah.
think they nail it. Everything's great. The sax is great. It's beautiful. I literally wrote, how is this not the closing song on this
Right.
album? But it just, this is all me kind of word vomiting, putting together ultimate thoughts for our final episode of like, this is where I'm like circling the drain with Bruce and how I feel about him. I would love, truly love, and I think he did this earlier in his career. I would love a Bruce album where they're all like 6 or 7 minutes long, and it's just like 6 songs.
Mm-hmm.
Give us a tight 40 to 45-minute album, 8 songs, 5-minute plus tracks. Like, they're all important to say because you're a verbose songwriter, and I understand that, and I'm giving you that. But don't give me the filler of crap like Rocky Ground. Don't give me the filler of You Got It. You don't need to do that. If what you need to say is important, take the time. I will give you the time, but don't disrespect me with stuff that doesn't need to be there, you know?
I totally agree. Because I said the same thing about Blink, but that's coming from a different place because they're just putting together a bunch of songs they have and didn't know which ones to cut out. This is like you said, it's drowning out the importance and actually interesting things about the songs that would stand out if there wasn't so much else muddying it and fatiguing you trying to get through the whole thing. Also, like, he loves his big B-sides compilations and stuff, and like outtakes and stuff. Just save some of the songs for a compilation record, so you have something coming out every year. Your brand continues. You know, I'll never understand why artists don't do that more. I know that if there's something about the streaming era that, like, now it's really encouraged for these albums to be like way too fucking long. I have like 30 tracks on them. Like the last Drake album had like 35 songs on it, something like that. I get it if they're following what works algorithmically or whatever, but I don't know. To me, a good record's a good record, and the more you put on it that can bring it down, the more it takes away from what's good. So you don't have to play this like numbers ratio game of how many of these songs are good and does that make it a good record if it's more than half or whatever. It's like, why not just put all the best shit out?
Right.
You know?
Right. Make it tight. And if you have to put interludes in there to work for whatever reason, go ahead. That's fine. I can listen to a minute of frickin' Travis Barker playing the Fallen interlude. Granted, I don't want to ever do that again, but I can stomach that over rocky ground to get to Land of Hope and Dreams. You know, if you as an artist really feel that. Before we get to these last 3 songs, I appreciated that you brought up that Drake thing. I don't understand why bands, artists, I guess bigger ones are a different story because they're stuck to labels with label expectation and money bags attached to it. But I don't know why bands our size and a little bit bigger, why do they not release just regular EPs or singles all year long, every year? I understand the money aspect of
probably
recording.
Just the money of it, yeah.
And I get that to some extent, but if you don't have to play Drake's game where you put out a 30-song album just to stay in the algorithm. You can put out 4 songs as an EP, release a single or 2, put the whole thing out. There you go. 2 more singles after the fact with videos or whatever content you want to call it. And then do it again next year with some new songs that you know you were writing in the interim anyway. I don't know. I feel like there's a way to do this the right way, or I'm sure there's multiple ways to do it the right way, but it doesn't have to be these self-important, grandiose statements. Yeah. I don't know. So that was just a tangent you made me think of in that moment. I truly do not want to talk about these last 3 songs because I think they break the album.
Me too. I totally agree. I think We Are Alive, I said Well, at the end of Land of Hope and Dreams, I had said, I am fully satisfied. Like, the album could
Agreed.
end right here. And then
Yeah.
We Are Alive comes on. I'm like, no, we didn't need this. Please stop. Why
Yeah.
are we back to Pete Seeger, but also Johnny Cash?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. And then Swallowed Up in the Belly of the Whale. I think these last three are all folk covers because I know the next one is. And Swallowed Up is just way too long. Now, American Land, this was a standout from the Seeger sessions, and it's one that he
Mhm.
plays with E Street. So it makes sense that they do it together, I guess. But I wish they were like that. These last three songs were like labeled as bonus tracks or something.
Agreed. Agreed.
Because this version actually kind of rules. But he had a really good statement with Land of Hope and Dreams, and that's original. And that's such a good closer. The only
Yeah.
way I could see something coming after it is if he did like little minute and a half, 2 minute acoustic send off.
Yes.
Which he's
That's
done
fine.
at the end of Magic. You know, Devil's Arcade is this big, grand sounding song, and then he ends it for real with Terry Song, which is a bonus track. I like that. I like that kind of 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
Where this is just it's neutering the
Yeah.
end and any kind of cohesive statement the album was trying to make.
Yeah. Honestly, these three songs brought down Wrecking Ball in my ranking. And even with whatever missteps of Rocky Ground and whatever B-side you've got it, this is just, it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to High Hopes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Overall I was pleasantly surprised with Wrecking Ball. Overall, like I think it has a cohesive sound to it, and I do like it. I just don't like all of it.
Yeah.
And which I could say about quite a few of his records, but High Hopes I like almost none of.
Interesting.
So January 14th, 2014, not long after Wrecking Ball. This is the last album that Bruce talks about in his book, because I think the book came out in 2016.
Yeah.
So this is a mix of previously unrecorded or unreleased originals and covers, which is why this feels so disjointed and like not a cohesive record at all, because it isn't one. Also, it features a new substitute for Stevie Van Zandt, who was like taking some time off. New E Street Band member, both temporary and honorary, Tom Morello.
Oh, did you also say unnecessary? Sorry, I was projecting. Sorry.
You're getting ahead of me. No, I will get into specific examples why. And I love that Tom Morello loves Bruce, but it's so fucking weird that he's here.
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit, but we'll see why. Title track, High Hopes. I said at least it's not the Panic at the Disco song. That's somehow worse. It's a cover. So weird that it starts with a cover.
Okay, yeah.
I thought the guitar screeches are kind of cool, but the horns are kind of annoying. But my big takeaway was, how can a song this loud and obnoxious be so boring?
Yeah. So I guess I'm jumping in right away because my big takeaway was that Tom Morello sounds boring when he's flying under Bruce's banner. And that is neither a direct attack or insult at Tom Morello or Bruce. I just don't think they are musicians who coalesce.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they ever do. And I'm truly trying to remember. But maybe I'll prove myself wrong later from saying this. But I don't think Tom Morello should be anywhere near Bruce Springsteen. He can idolize him. Go ahead. He could be inspired by him. That's fine. I don't care. But I don't think his screechy wah playing does not fit under America. Like, don't work for me.
And it becomes very evident on the next song, Harry's Place.
Yeah.
Because this is a fucking weird song for Bruce to do.
Yeah, it is.
I really thought this one was a cover, and it's not. He wrote this one. I liked it when I first heard it, but now I just think it's a bad version of Murder Incorporated from his Greatest Hits album. It sets a scene, but it's just so goofy.
It is goofy, and it sounds like he's trying to be really, really mean, which would have sounded cool in the 70s when he had like that snarl and that bite and that snarkiness in his voice. But now it sounds old, and out of touch. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that one.
it sounds mean in like a 1930s mobsters kind of way,
It
and it's
does.
like, what the like you don't what was it? You don't drink Harry's whiskey, you don't fuck Harry's girls, something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is Bruce Springsteen singing this?
Yeah, I
This
didn't
is
get it.
this actually bothers me even more than Reno on Devils and Dust, the one where he
Yeah,
talks
yeah.
about fucking a prostitute up the ass.
You know what? Honestly, I agree because on that one, I didn't really notice that or pay attention to it in the way that this one starkly is coarse, and it just
Yeah.
doesn't work for me. Yeah. I'm with that. I'm with you on that. Can we talk about my favorite song ever?
Yeah, I'm so glad we get to talk about this now. So I have hinted at this before. Uh, in I don't remember what we were talking about exactly, but I've hinted at this song, American Skin, 41 Shots. So, like Land of Hope and Dreams, this made its debut live and was known only as a live song since 1999, unrecorded in the studio until now. It tells the true story of a black man named Amadou Diallo, who was killed by police, who were later acquitted, of course, and during pursuit because they thought the wallet he was reaching for was a gun, so they shot him 41 times. This
Yeah.
is basically a Black Lives Matter song about the struggles of black people to live by different rules around the police. And you can imagine how well that went over in 1999 when cops heard it for the first time. Basically, he was getting booed and having walkouts by people at his concerts when he debuted this. I think he debuted it in Atlanta of that year in 99. And when he came to the Garden to play it, the cops like refused to provide security for him
Hmm.
because they were so pissed off that he wrote a song about black people being unfairly treated by the cops.
That's
And
wild.
which is extra wild because he also shows empathy for the cops on
He
the song.
does. Yeah.
Like he tries to get in their head of like how they live with the mistake they've made.
Yeah.
And not all cops even care.
Yeah.
And Bruce is not that ACAB.
No, he's not.
They serve no purpose but to enforce the wealthy's rule over society. He's not going to take it that far. He has a lot of respect for the police and didn't want to make any enemies. He just wanted to highlight a true social issue. And he said a lot of people have come up to him over the years and said, like, thank you for saying that. Thank you for.
Hmm.
Oh, now I remember when I've alluded to this song before when we talked about Black Cowboys on Devils and Dust, because this is how he does a black story well, even when he's not.
Yes.
And this song makes me fucking cry.
Me too.
It just because I told you to listen to the live version after you said that this was like easily your favorite Bruce song, and it made you cry too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I listened to the original, the I guess the album track, and I thought it was really, really strong. When you said to listen to the live version, I was sobbing on the
Mm-hmm.
couch. So much so, my partner was like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, because I'm just sitting there with my phone and I'm crying, like looking at the lyrics as I'm listening. And I was like, "You just got to go listen to this, and like you'll understand." And she listened to it today, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I could see why you were crying." Like, it's really sad.
If I asked you 4 months ago, do you think you'll ever be sobbing to a Bruce Springsteen song? Would you believe me?
I guess not. No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, but I think at the start of our series, or actually, no, if you had told me on our Nebraska Tunnel of Love episode that he could bring me to tears, I would say yes.
Hmm.
By that point in the journey, I could believe it, but he doesn't until this point. Uh, yeah, this song does not redeem High Hopes
Not at all.
by any
Uh,
means, but it beats the best of his songs throughout all of his career. And anything that I can say is his best song, I think this does it better because it does the storytelling. It has something to say about society. It is epic. It is meaningful. It is artful. It's empathetic. It's everything. For being so long, I could truly just listen to this on repeat.
yeah.
I think of all of his songs, none of them have I been able to memorize the lyrics to because I really only listened to them the one time. This
Mhm.
one, I learned the lyrics like since listening to it last night because I listened to it another 3 times.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah,
And
yeah,
this
that's
is a
great.
weirdly good example of him using repetition effectively. You know how we've
Yes,
said over and over that
yes,
like it loses its meaning when
yeah,
you say something too many times? This actually works because it hammers it into your head
yeah,
that this guy got shot 41 times
yeah,
for reaching for his wallet.
yeah,
It just haunts you. And unfortunately, not only is it stuck on this fucking album,
yeah,
but it loses a little bit of its power in the studio because it doesn't quite capture the power of the live
mm-hmm.
version from 15 years before. I'm glad it came out when it did because it really started to enter
Yeah,
into like the Black Lives Matter movement. But whereas Land of Hope and Dreams, they actually did it pretty well and they recaptured what they were looking for live in the studio. This just kind of makes it cheesy and weak in comparison to the original, but in a vacuum, it's one of the best songs he's ever made.
yeah. I think the what was special about me for the live in New York City version was the crowd interaction,
Mm-hmm.
which you just can't get on the album.
Yeah.
Because comparing the two of them from that live in New NYC version to this one, there's not a lot of changes structurally, tonally,
Mm-hmm.
anything. Like it's pretty much the same exact song. Maybe aside from the chorus of 41 shots introducing the song. I thought that was beautiful the way, especially stereophonically, the way they did that on the live version.
And that you
But
can hear that each of them are saying it once, like it's Clarence, then Nils,
yes,
then Stevie, then Patty.
yeah, yeah. I think I think what really, really hit me for that one was that the crowd is cheering, they're clapping along because that beat is immediately catchy.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets up close to the mic and he goes, "We need some quiet." And he
Yep.
shuts that shit down.
Yep.
And him saying to freaking New York City, "Hey, you got to be quiet because I'm about to sing about some real meaningful shit."
Mm-hmm.
You can't, you just can't do that again on a record.
Yeah.
Um,
It took balls, and it was literally him just being like, "Sit your white asses down and listen."
yeah,
Like,
it was. It was. Hey, cops, here's some media literacy.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, great song. No notes. Love it. I'm going to listen to it again after we get off because it's such a
That's
great song.
great to hear.
What sucks, though,
Is the
what
rest of the
sucks real
album?
bad about this, I'm doing the segue on this one. I'm ready for this.
Okay.
Just like firewood. There's a
You know,
pun there. Right away, he sings a song about a black man who is killed by the police because of institutional racism and years worth of it. And it is powerful and it is meaningful and it has endless things to say and it's beautiful. And then he makes a Beatles-ish song.
okay, this is a cover though. I will say
I don't
this is.
care. I don't care. I don't even care. Fuck off, Bruce. No, just like firewood, you're truly putting it there. Why didn't you put American Skin at the end of the album then?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you end it on that note? Because you can't follow that up with anything.
Yeah, no, you can't. Oh no,
Nothing
we have to
after it.
save the. God, I just remembered what the last song is on this
Oh,
album.
you mean you don't like Dream Baby Dream? Yeah,
No, I
just
don't.
like firewood's stupid. It's so dumb.
You know, it's funny. I never caught that pun because well, probably because I didn't care enough to think deeply about it. I was just like, wow, I hate that trumpet solo.
See, I just ripped this song a new one and I looked at my final bullet point. I wrote, past Joe wrote, I think I actually like this one on the spectrum of typical Bruce songs.
Oh God,
So I did like it, but it's
but the
awful after
sequencing's
American
awful.
Skin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why it's weird. It was weird having American Skin come after Harry's Place.
Yeah, it was.
There's
It
no
was.
thought.
Sure
That's
was.
why I hate this record because there's no thought put into it. It's just like let's just put together some songs, um, like Down in the Hole. This one's original, but that transition from the filtered vocals to regular was rough and unnatural.
Don't even
And
remember. It's stupid.
I said, "Where the hell is this one going?" It's like it stops and becomes a different song every minute.
Yeah.
Heaven's Wall original, a sloppy and repetitive gospel song that would be catchy if it wasn't so annoying.
Yeah.
And this is where it really stands out to me that Tom Morello is the weirdest addition to the E Street Band.
Yeah.
His style doesn't fit at all, and it feels like he's
Nope.
just being jammed in there.
Nope.
And what the hell's happening in that second solo toward the end?
Uh,
Like, I
I
don't
don't know.
remember what that was. This was the hardest to get. I think I think I listened to this on the way to meeting up with you and your partner and her sister to see the Mark Hoppus book event.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't want to tell you anything,
Uh
but
huh.
when I saw you, I was like in a bad mood because I was listening to this fucking
That's
album.
funny.
um, but then, okay, Frankie Fell in Love is such an old sounding song. You'd think it's a cover, but no, it's an original. And I'm just like, Bruce, you don't need to record every song you play live. I know he hasn't, there's way too many, but this adds nothing to your discography. Why did you bother?
So this one actually made me think of your commentary about him critiquing bro country
Hmm.
previously. I think on The Rising is when you were talking about it.
Yeah, I want to say Born to Run and The Rising.
Okay,
I
okay,
think
yeah,
we've talked
it was
about it
definitely The
then.
Rising because it was more about like it being popular in culture at the time.
Yeah.
This actually sounds like bro country to me.
Hmm.
So he's come full circle from critiquing everyone to being like, it's a party song. It's fine. It doesn't mean nothing. Whatever. I'm having fun. And it's
Yeah.
just like, I don't, I'm not having fun.
I had said that with This Is Your Sword, it's an original, and I said, please make it stop. And then this is what I imagine people who hate Bruce think he sounds like all the time.
It is.
Okay, but let me ask. I know this is a weird album to get on this soapbox about, but if you could be brought to tears by the power of a song by someone and consider two albums at least fully great with Tunnel of Love in Nebraska,
Yeah.
isn't that enough to admit that you like an artist?
I'm not going to spoil my final thoughts.
Because I mean, I came away from Blink 182 saying, like, you know what, I do like them. They're not a favorite, but I appreciated them more after.
Right. Right. And I'm being coy mostly for fun because what you're saying does make sense and I understand where you're coming from,
Hmm.
but I'm not going to spoil my thoughts for our final
Okay,
episode. Yeah.
good. Hunter of Invisible Game original. I don't know what this is about, and I don't care enough to dig. Now let's get into a fun one. The Ghost of Tom Joad electric
Oh.
version. Original, obviously.
Yeah.
He does a pretty amazing electric version of Atlantic City, and
Yeah.
that's from Nebraska, so in theory, this could work.
Yep.
It's nice to dream. Tom Morello doesn't just do an inappropriate guitar solo, he fucking sings on it.
Yeah. He does.
Like, the harmonies on the chorus are kind of sick, and it is cool in general to hear him trade solos with Bruce. But this song in this interpretation just doesn't work for me.
I really think it was just him that messed it up. I liked it. I was fine with it, but that's me already liking Ghost of Tom Joad, so I'm already biased towards the
I
song.
love the original, and when I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, oh, this does jam.
Yeah.
Like, it goes hard, but there's something about it being that song that he's doing it to that just feels like bastardized. I don't know. Because
Yeah.
what about this, like, Grapes of Wrath inspired, which I finally finished that goddamn book, by the way, about this Grapes of Wrath inspired song about, like, migrant workers and the poor and finding your humanity again as you're losing it. What what needs his weird stomp box slide
Right.
shit? Like,
Yeah. None of it does
why
actually.
that song? I don't get it.
Yeah. At this point, I actually forgot that we had two more songs on the album because this was another one that was feeling long
Hmm.
because so many were bad.
Yeah.
And I was happily surprised with The Wall. I
Oh,
really did
really?
like I really did like that song. I liked its message. I liked its sincerity. My only problem was that he goes the wow. He says it in such a weird way that I was like, dude, this song is so good. And then you go the wow. They're going back up to wow. It's like, stop, man.
He did write this one. I don't remember it at all. I said, I don't know. This is sweet, I guess. I'm glad you got something out of it because I don't
Yeah, it was
remember it.
it was a good soldier song. It was a good like reckoning with fighting and returning and who's hurting who and who's really being hurt, even if they are the ones doing the hurting or being hurt. It was just good. It was a good song. He got this one. Just bad delivery. Dream baby dream. Dream
So
fucking
this
baby dream.
this is a cover by the band Suicide. He's left this song forever. I hate this fucking song. I've
Yeah.
always hated it. The only good thing I can say about it is that it kind of harkens back to his sound on Darkness on the Edge of Town, but it is the most mind-numbingly repetitive, boring, bothersome song.
So I didn't know that it was a cover.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Like, as repetitive as he can get, he would not write something this asinine.
Right,
He'd
and that's kind of
cover
how I
it,
felt.
but he wouldn't write it.
I really thought he was like in some trash, not knowing that. I thought it was him reflecting on his career, which, funnily enough, is very cohesive into Hitchhiking on Western Stars, the first song. So there is some crossover there, which was fun to look at. But like, so in my mind, still thinking that he wrote this song, I was like, oh, it's he's singing to himself about his career. He's reflecting on it. I was like, it's just kind of sad that he only knows 20 words to do so.
He could be thinking that as he sings it to himself,
Right.
But no, he did not write it. I just I'm so mad at this album because like this is the album where we finally get American Skin.
Yeah.
And because of that, I technically can't put it at the bottom of the list
Yeah.
of the ranking, and that makes me so angry. And especially when I look at Tom Morello and I think if they actually crafted an album that utilized Tom instead of trying to shoehorn him onto old outtake Bruce songs and ruining good ones, they could have made something really cool. But this
Yeah.
makes the whole album reek of missed potential.
Right. And maybe if they did it in the 90s when Tom Morello was at the height of, or let's not even say that, in the early 2000s, when Tom Morello was like past Rage Against the Machine and in the height of them, kind of.
Yeah, maybe he's in between Audio Slave records or something.
Yeah. I would have been cool with that because I really think Bruce, knowing how to put his finger on the pulse of rock music, he could have used Tom Morello in a very interesting way. And it's just, this ain't it. So that extra disappoints me for it. That's not really a spoiler because we're going to do a top 10, not like a full blown ranking when we get to it. But I do have to let you know, I did put this above Devils and Dust.
I did too.
It was only because of
one
American
spot.
Skin. Me too. Me too. Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're the bottom two spots.
That's funny. That's really funny. Mine aren't the bottom two spots, but they are close to it.
I'm so mad about that. We need to move on to Western Stars because I actually like this one.
Oh.
I knew you wouldn't. I had a feeling that this was going to be too Western, too sleepy. But there's something very interesting about this, and I have a kind of fun personal story about it. So for context, June 14th, 2019, Western Stars comes out. It's the first fully solo album since Bruce reunited with E Street for Magic. Per Bruce, this is a 13-song meditation on the struggle between individual freedom and communal life. Yes, I did say 13. I'll explain that at the end. It coincides with a concert film where he performs the album in its entirety in a decorated barn on his ranch for an intimate audience, with stories by Bruce in between to explain his headspace and inspiration for every song. And he's playing it with a full 30-piece orchestra and Patty and a few friends. And it really is beautiful and lush. And it's a great, I wouldn't say a great movie, but very much what you'd expect and good for what it is, I'd say.
Okay.
Now, I saw this movie in an empty theater maybe a month after seeing the other Bruce movie that year, Blinded by the Light. Do you remember seeing ads for that?
I do remember seeing ads for it. I didn't watch the movie because I was still ardently anti-Bruce, but I did not hear the best things about it.
Yeah, don't watch it. It's terrible. But I was really excited for it because I liked the idea, and it's based on a true story, like a memoir written by a real guy. And I had tweeted about being excited for that movie. I had tweeted something like, this is a great movie season. I can't wait for, this is a hilarious list, Joker and Yesterday and Blinded by the Light. And because I was disappointed by all of those movies except Joker. I kind of like Joker at the time. So the author of the book that Blinded by the Light is based on, Greetings from Barry Park, tweeted back at me saying how excited I was about the movie. And he said, let me know what you think when you see it. And I never did because he was a really sweet guy and I didn't want to be like, yo, man, they fucked up your life in that movie.
Yeah. That's the Hideo Kojima effect where he's like, he posts his letterbox reviews or like a quick caption review of it.
Oh,
And he's
yeah.
like, I just went to go see such and such film. And then he writes like a really nice paragraph. And you're like, oh, Hideo Kojima enjoyed Thunderbolts, like, or whatever,
Yeah.
right? And then there will be one where it's like,
I saw Madam Web.
I saw Folie à Deux. It's
Yeah.
like him
Yeah.
at the theater.
That's it. It's
And then they're
literally,
like,
if you
Kojima
don't have something
trashes-
good to say, don't say it.
I love it.
Yeah. So I forget the author's name. He's met Bruce a bunch of times and whatnot. But, sir, if you're listening, I'm sorry I didn't like the movie. I hope you're sorry, too, because I don't like... If you like it, you have bad taste. I'm sorry. Anyway, so let's get into these songs for... last thing about that movie. It's kind of important.
Mm-hmm.
So since this is the first album that I didn't have the context of the book for, as I was going through the listen, I was like, okay, I'm going to rewatch Western Stars after I've listened to the album and see how close I got in my own interpretation to what he says the song is about. Because he tells a story in between each song, so he says what he was thinking about at the time. I did not realize until after I started watching it that you don't really have to think that deep about a lot of these stories.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of mystery, but I would say there's a lot of heart on this record, and it's very singular in his discography for its sound. So I would say that I really appreciate it for what it is, and I do still like it, but it didn't quite live up as much to what I remember. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this record?
I think that this is the tails to Wrecking Ball's heads for me, because I agree with you. I think there's a lot of heart on it. I think it sounds really pretty. It sounds really nice. I think he's doing something different, which is really, really great in such a long career as his. It just doesn't work for me. This is not. I don't want to hear a Western.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what I mean, and like that's really all it is. The storytelling
Typically,
is fine.
neither do I. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. And I think you're into it because you're into him.
Yeah.
You know what? Honestly, I think I could listen to Mark Hoppus do a Western because I'm into him similarly that you are to Bruce. You know what I mean? But there's stuff that Mark Hoppus does, like he does. I forget the name of it, Simple Machines or something like that. He does like an electronic band with Alex Gaskarth. And like
What?
yeah, and
The
I didn't
all-time low guy?
yeah, and I didn't even think to include that because like I listened to it and I didn't like it. I like actively was like, this is just not for me, no matter how much you are for me, you know? So even though I've definitely warmed up to Bruce as we've moved on throughout this series, this album doesn't do it for me. I'm even looking through it right now. I don't think there was anything that definitely was like, yes, this is a good song, and I am throwing this on my BS I like. You know, like there's, I think the closest I got to it was Drive Fast and Midnight Motel, but everything else, it's just they're acoustic songs that he's playing around a campfire in my mind.
Yeah. There's a couple reasons for that, I think, because I don't know how deep we have to really get into each of these tracks. We can kind of blaze through them, but it is kind of a... Okay, I'll say this. I had this impression for a long time that Bruce was kind of out of ideas with the E Street Band, and it takes him working on his own to come up with something unique. Because his last album before this was High Hopes, and it sucked, and it sounded like they were out of ideas. And then he comes out with this, something he's never done before. And thematically and musically, it all worked for me really well. And I was surprised by the swing he took on it. And it's got a limited palette of tools, you know, because it's got an orchestra sound and an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do with that. It sounds lush and it has a great effect. You can get good dynamics out of it, but you're not going to get a lot of variety in tone. So that changes things a little bit. But there's also this one thing that just nags at me with this record.
I know what you're going to say, and I agree with you. I agree with you. I know what you're going to say. You could say it.
It's the leitmotif.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's like what, 6 songs on this record that all use
Mm-hmm.
the exact same da 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 da,
Mm-hmm.
and it's usually all always played on the strings.
Mm-hmm.
It starts on the very first song,
It does.
Hitchhiking.
Which I liked it on there. It worked for me on
Yeah,
there because it's the first time it happens and it's novel. So I'm with it.
yeah, it's a great tone setter. It's based on a real story of, well, kind of a real story. It's like he used to hitchhike a lot, so he was just remembering that and kind of missing it, but relating it to his feelings of like only being passive or passingly interested in people's lives. You know, he can write about them, he can surmise a lot of their feelings, but
Mm-hmm.
in his wandering nature, he just doesn't relate to people in the same way and doesn't settle down the way they do. Good start, you know? Then we get to The Wayfarer, and it's kind of about the same thing.
Yeah.
It's more of an in-depth look at what his lonely life is like as opposed to the people he's riding with in the last song. But again, it's just kind of like a different take on the same idea. He says it himself, you know, this is my 19th album and I'm still writing about cars. When we're in cars, we feel like we're moving forward, but really we're just moving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he's getting at. But if you thought he was out of ideas,
Uh-oh.
the next song isn't about a car, but a train.
And yet still about the same thing.
It is. Tucson Train, you know, I'd say this is a very strings and horns heavy album like The Rising was, but sounds totally different. And he's really painted a great soundscape with it. But this is the third song in a row about travel. But at least this one is about staying in one place and waiting for someone to come to him.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's like, okay, we get it, you know?
So what's bothering me about this album at this point is it sounds like a Broadway musical
Mm-hmm.
in and like I mean literally sounds like production wise. Like I feel like I'm at a Broadway show in the way that those drums, those horns, those strings all kind of sound quote unquote generic. It sounds
Mm-hmm.
very, very clean. It sounds very, very good. And you keep saying lush, and I agree with you. I think it does sound lush, but it sounds engineered
Yeah.
more so than anything else. Whereas, like, I think I'd probably like a warmer fiddle on an album that's a Western, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really getting that. And I'm not a big musical person,
Yeah.
so I'm just not into it. Like again, this is not for me as I go through it. Um, by Tucson Train, I was also having the feeling that you're you're taking a big risk when you keep writing the same song.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like because it's one thing to keep having the same idea and you want to mine. And people say this about authors, and I'm sure people say it about musicians and filmmakers. People throughout their lifetime tell the same story over and over again
Mm-hmm.
because that's what they're obsessed with. Like Stephen King and all his horror stories, he writes about the loss of innocence and childhood. So you
Mm-hmm.
know that that is something that he deeply cares about and thinks about. He just puts it through the lens of monsters and science fiction and stuff. So it's cool. But really, like that's what he's writing about every time. And for Bruce, what he's writing about is like this idea of being a loner in a world that you don't really fit in, even though you kind of stand out in it to
Yeah.
everyone. So you are a magnet for everyone's attention for whatever reason. In his case, it's probably mostly his charisma and his talent.
Mm-hmm.
And some days he likes it, some days he doesn't, but it's there nonetheless. And so he keeps writing that song over and over again.
Yeah.
That by this time, I'm like, I don't. I'm glad you've explored it so much, and I'm glad it means so much to you, but I don't care. It doesn't. That it just.
And that's
you,
fine.
right, and exactly, and that's fine. It doesn't hit anymore after so long.
Like, I could debate why I think you should give, like, Born to Run in Darkness more of a chance and, like, try to overlook the 70s production style.
Yeah,
Because I think the content there is so good. But this one is totally a matter of taste.
yeah,
Of, like, do you like this genre? No. Okay. It's
right.
like, it's kind of, I mean, it's just like the Seeker Sessions thing, except he wrote all the songs. It's new for him, and it's something that I think works in a lot of ways, like on the title track.
And that's why I give this one a chance in the way that Seeger I couldn't get through a couple songs because
Yeah.
that wasn't his voice. It was him doing
Right, you're
someone
not
else's
learning
voice.
about him.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why for Western Stars, like I'll give you the benefit out. I'll try it. Okay. So Western Stars, you're saying that it works for you. Why?
So it's a concept song about a former actor who's lost his vitality with age and the empty, drunken life he's led since his prime.
I'm
And
so
also
happy
an
that I
homage.
guessed the Viagra thing. I'm so happy I guessed
So
it.
I'm going to get to that because I'm going to make the note of what the movie says
Okay.
or what he says in the movie about it. It's also an homage to the cowboys that he pretended to be, things like that. It has a great line, the perfect little simple turn of phrase that I love for Bruce. Hell, these days there ain't no more. Now there's just again.
Mm.
I like that. It seems like it really gets across the message of the song, which, you know, he may be aging, but the sky he stares up into every night stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to paraphrase some of what he said in the movie, the song is the heart of the record, a fading Western film star watching the world change around him, and now he's doing Viagra commercials.
Mm.
He's got an inner compass that won't let him bullshit himself, and he's made a relative peace with himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I also got that wrong. I thought it was about him needing Viagra, but no, it's about him selling Viagra because, like,
Okay.
he used to be in movies where, like, John Wayne would shoot him, and now he's, like, some guy people recognize from credit card commercials one time.
Right. That makes me like this song a little bit more because I found it kind of weird that a guy who I think really, really brands himself on his virility is singing a song about needing Viagra. Granted, I
Yeah.
know you're older and whatnot, and there's no judgment there, but there was a lot of cognitive dissonance hearing that line pop up. So I appreciate the clarification on it.
Yeah, especially that he's got to accept that he's old enough that even if he doesn't need it, you'd believe it if he does.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. Yeah.
Sleepy Joe's Cafe. I really like this one because it comes at the perfect point in the album. Like, we
Okay.
desperately needed a little fun to
Yeah.
shake things up in the track list. And it's a simple song about simple people having simple fun. And weirdly, that leitmotif from Hitchhiking comes back here, but it's played on horns this time.
Yeah.
I think this suggests some connection between the stories that's more conceptual or loosely related than a full story across the whole album, especially when you get to the next song.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have any thoughts about Sleepy Joe's Cafe, which I don't feel like you do.
I thought it sounded like what Jimmy Buffett songs sound like, but I don't really listen to Jimmy Buffett, so I might be wrong.
I don't really either, but I know Margaritaville, and this is way better than that. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so this next song, Drive Fast, The Stuntman, you mentioned this one as like almost doing it for you.
It was very close.
So musically for me, this is actually the first miss because I just
Interesting.
don't like the melody of the chorus. It just feels like kind of slapdash.
Yes.
Like, it
that
almost
was
gives
my
me
problem.
anxiety to listen to.
Yes, that was my exact problem. My whole thing about this song was that right away, this one could hit me based on the melody of it. And so I said, I hope his vocal melody doesn't miss. The verses were great, but the rest really fell flat. And
Yeah.
that's why this is not one of the ones that I was like, I can like wholeheartedly say like, yeah, like that one. I don't because of that. And
Yeah.
it makes me sad because it was there for me.
Yeah, and I think the concept is great. Like,
It is great.
it's about a former stuntman who made a living off putting himself in danger, and that recklessness taught him how to fall in love just as hard and fast as he treats his work, giving himself over to something that is otherwise terrifying. And the movie said exactly what I said, so I was like, fuck yeah, I got that.
Nice.
I don't need shit explained to me.
I think it
have
would have been
media
really
literacy.
great. I think, yeah, you're not a cop listening to. Sorry. I really, really wish you still haven't seen Hot Rod, right?
No, I still need to see that.
Oh, man.
And Popstar.
Well, yeah, we should double feature that.
Yeah.
I think it would have been great if at the end of Hot Rod, Andy Samberg had this play over the credits, "Drive Fast, the Stuntman," just because it would both fit perfectly with the movie and tonally not at all, which is what would make it even better, you know. Yeah, I wish this one worked for me really, really well, but it just didn't.
Yeah. Right. I just did notice that string part on this song sounds like the leitmotif played in reverse.
Oh, okay.
I think
Yeah.
it's going da 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 instead of da 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 da, and I'm like, well, he just loved that one idea that I think hints at a point more than it has one. You know?
I don't know if it had a point because this is 100% a concept record. I just don't think it's a concept album in the storytelling sense. I think
Yeah,
he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna make a Western album, and this is a song about people in the West, and
yeah.
that's why it all sounds so similar and samey to me, at least. And
But that's why it bugs me because a leitmotif is supposed to represent when something happens again, like when Darth Vader shows up and you hear da da da
yeah,
da 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 put in another part of the score. But it's
yeah,
like, but it signals that that's when he comes in. That's what a leitmotif is. So why did you just reuse a riff 6 times?
because he's saying on every song, this is a song in the West.
Okay, you were gonna ask about chasing wild horses. I
I
I don't I,
was.
ju- I just thought this was a little monotonous to listen to.
I
I don't care.
yawned. I just yawned for 5 minutes listening to the song. There was nothing
Yeah,
to it. This
I
one,
didn't care
out
to
of all
dig
of them,
into it.
it could have been cut. Didn't need
Yeah.
it.
Apparently, the movie he says it's about running away from love for fear of being trapped by it, which is
Okay.
the exact opposite of the character from the last song. So that works well as like the other side of the coin, but like it's
No.
also kind of a theme that's going to be repeated again, like on Sundown. And there's that leitmotif again. Again, I appreciate the idea, but it makes the songs harder to distinguish from each other because if you're like, oh, which song is that? Oh, the one that goes da 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 da. Which one is that?
I remember this one because it's the one that has sleigh bells on this album.
Oh yeah,
They
yeah.
came back.
I don't know if any of these pet peeves you've had, like rim shots and sleigh bells and stomp claps, bother you as much as this leitmotif bothers me.
I don't
And
think
I
they
like
do.
this album. That's what's
Yeah, I
so
don't.
weird is like because then I just get that stupid little riff stuck in my head and I'm like I don't even know which song that is.
Yeah.
But Sundown weirdly is melodically fantastic. It's like dynamic and it has amazing backup vocals. I according to the movie, this is his tribute to great Jimmy Webb songs about time and place. I don't know who Jimmy Webb is, but
I don't either.
it's about trying to escape heartbreak by distracting yourself with moving to a new place and working hard. And apparently is based on himself when he was very young and moved to California to be with his family when they
Hmm.
moved from Jersey to California. He was just trying to get over a girl. Okay.
All right.
I think the song's really good, but like, again, we're kind of treading familiar territory here. And then somewhere north of Nashville, for all the stories about blue collar workers and other kinds of artists that he's even done two different kinds of actors earlier on this record. It's kind of nice to hear him sing about an actual singer songwriter.
Yeah.
But don't worry, this guy's still a lonely loser. It's a guy
Yeah.
who gave up his chance at a normal, happy life for a dream he couldn't make come true. And it's really short, and it's got a cool lo-fi microphone thing to make it
Yeah.
sound a little scrappier.
I like this one. It stood out because it's both pretty and it was short. So I was like, yeah, I'm with it. I'm cool.
Yeah. Stones is kind of a major song on the album because it's heavily inspired by his relationship with Patty. The leitmotif comes back. It's a decent metaphor of lies and secrecy weighing on you like stones. In the movie, he says, faith, hope, and trust are hard to come by, but they will grow your garden of love, while lies will try to make a fool of those things. Without them, all you have is stones. I like it better in the movie because Patty sings it with him, and that's just
Oh, wow.
very lovely to see these two people who've been married for 30 odd years
Yeah.
singing about the hard times they've had together and like the admission Bruce is making it hurting people he's loved and needing to learn from that.
Yeah.
So I think it works better in the movie than it does in the actual record just by having Patty there. And honestly, I've never really said that about Patty's voice because I'm not the biggest fan.
Hmm. I was disappointed by the song because it felt like it was supposed to be an important song on the album. So my ears perked up especially on it. And it was so repetitive, man,
Yeah.
that I was just like, you're getting in the way of yourself telling the story. Like sometimes simplicity is best.
Yeah.
The song cut off because I was in the tunnel in the G train, so it cut off mid track, and I was truly relieved because I was just like getting so bored listening to it over and over again.
Yeah.
And Yeah, which really really sucks because the next song is another repetitive song.
I was just gonna say that.
Like,
Uh, yeah, I don't even really want to talk about it. It's just like he opens it up vocally and sounds big there in a way that's like impressive for a guy his age, you know.
yeah,
But
I'll
I
go listen to My Hero by Foo Fighters if I want to hear something like that. Like,
it's just got some really amateur lyrics like Starlight, Star Bright shit. It's like, come
yep.
on, man. Like why are we here?
Which
Like
I'm not gonna lie, he continues that on both Hello Sunshine and Midnight Motel. And
Moonlight
it,
Motel.
I'm sorry, oh Moonlight Motel. Oh man, that's my bad.
It is this weird thing that keeps coming back about the sun and the moon
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
lyrics and
I
the
guess it's a really
titles.
nice like back in A and B at the end on the last two songs, but
Hmm.
his lyrics are really like kind of garbage on the majority of these tracks, and I I think there's like because it sounds like a Broadway musical to me, and Broadway musicals are supposed to be as hyper accessible as possible. That's what
Hmm.
this kind of sounds like he's doing. Like it
Hmm.
sounds like he's making like a G-rated Technicolor Western from the 50s into a concept record, which is actually a Broadway musical. And
Hmm.
I guess he kind of does that because he makes the movie, even though there's like no performances or anything.
Right.
But
It's literally just shots of him driving his truck or like petting his horse.
yeah, there you go.
That's
Yeah,
about
there you go.
it.
But like I stopped listening to Hello Sunshine because you rhyme shoes and blues, and I called that. I was walking home and I was like, oh, he just said shoes. I bet the next line is gonna complete the rhyme with blues, and then he said blues, and I was like, I'm out. I'm done. Like I can't keep doing it.
Which is funny because it does have probably the central theme of the whole record. You fall in love with lonely, you end up that way.
Yeah.
But I really don't get why this was the lead single for the record.
Oh wow, that's a bad choice.
I know, I guess it doesn't really matter. It's a 70-year-old's like record in 2019. It's a Western album. Like, who cares what the single is? But it's just too mellow to exemplify the record musically,
Yeah.
even though it does pretty well lyrically. But here's the thing. I've sounded a lot harsher on this album than I actually feel because when I'm not dissecting it, I can just kind of put it on in the background and when I'm in the right mood for it. This is not an album I can go to a lot.
Hmm.
But the reason in my mind that this really stood out as one of his better albums, and I honestly still kind of think that,
Hmm.
is because of Moonlight Motel.
I knew you loved this one. I knew it.
Yeah, I'm very easy to read. This song is basically just the opening of Up.
Yeah.
It's one of my all-time favorites, and I sob every time I listen to it.
I want to love it. I want to love it, especially because you're loving
What's
it.
holding it
Like,
back?
honestly, the 12 tracks that came before it, like, I got tired by everything. That's really
I
it.
could see that, but I also think this kind of brings everything before it back up. It actually, like, it doesn't trick you into thinking, oh, that album was actually good just because the last song was good. I
Yeah.
think it actually confirms the fears of the characters that are running away from love in all the previous songs,
Hmm.
but proves that it's still worth it because the pain he's been avoiding by staying lonely has finally come for him once he's loved and lost. But at least he still has the memories because he says in the song it's better to have loved. And it just, for anybody who hasn't seen Up, it's really all you need is the first 10 minutes. Just the opening where you see Carl and Ellie's life together and then she dies and he's left alone. But like that really comes back later in the movie, like the act 2, act 3 break
Hmm.
where he opens up the travel diary that he thought she never filled because they never went anywhere,
Yeah.
but she filled it with the adventures of their life, you know,
Yeah.
like having kids and buying a house together and going on a little like beach trip or something, like finding the adventure because you were spending it with the person you love. That's what this whole song is.
Hmm.
And to have it follow up a bunch of songs about the fear of vulnerability because you don't want to be hurt when you lose someone, to hit you with that hard reality of how hard it is to lose somebody, but you will still be grateful. Oh my God, I'm tearing up just talking about it. You will still be grateful to have had it.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things you can say, you know?
It is. It's a great. it's a great thematic way to wrap the album up. Funnily enough, it mirrors the structure of Up. Like you saying that the first 10 minutes of Up is really all you need. I'd
Hmm.
argue you need a couple songs and then Moonlight Motel on this
Yeah.
album to really hammer it home. But by having like three tracks at the top say the same thing, by the time I get to Moonlight Motel, I'm like, that's nice. That's a nice sentiment, you know. But like I think it's funny how that's reversed. Like the
Yeah.
first 10 minutes you need it, but really what you need of Western Stars is just the last like couple tracks or a couple tracks and the last one
Yeah.
to say what he's trying to say. I think this could have been a really really beautiful 35-minute album, and
Yes.
I think at a 35-minute runtime, I think I would have been able to get more on board with it as a Western. Because even if it's
Hmm.
outside my genre zone, I'm still trying it anyway. But to do it for that long, granted, this is still a shorter album by his means. It's 50 minutes compared to the usual hour plus. It's
Yeah.
still too long. Like it's still too long to like really like sink my teeth into, especially on such repetitive tracks.
It is weird that even at 12 songs, it still could use some cuts because
Yeah,
it's easy to say that about a 15 track album like Wrecking Ball, but then at 12, it still could use some cuts. Or excuse me, I mean 13 because the movie has one more song.
it does. Yeah,
It is a cover of Rhinestone Cowboy by Glenn Campbell. Okay.
yeah. Uh,
I don't care.
he just can't get out of his own way.
I'll say this: it just makes it end on a fun note instead of leaving the theater sobbing with Moonlight Motel. So I'll take it. I don't know why that song, but whatever. I guess it just fits the Western theme.
So, where do you land on 2010's Bruce as we're finally becoming contemporary with his stuff?
This it kind of ran the gamut of the aughts in only 3 albums instead of 5. You
Yeah.
know, lots of covers that you didn't need.
Yep.
A weird genre experiment, really high highs and really low lows.
Yeah.
I still have Western Stars pretty high on my ranking.
Hmm.
There aren't that many that I think one song makes, but this one I do. Like I guess I'll just always love it for how hard that song hits me.
Hmm.
How about you?
You're not gonna like where I rank Western Stars, and
Probably not.
it's. I think it's kind of funny, but I didn't do it for the bit. I did it because I was like, no, I really feel like it. Some of them, I'm looking at my ranking. There's gonna be like tiers for it because granted they're in number order, but there's some that
Mhm.
are like really at the top of the top echelon, and then there's like a huge break, and then okay,
Yeah.
those are in the middle or whatever, and then there's another huge break. Um, Although Western Stars might be towards the bottom of my ranking, I don't think it's a necessarily bad album. This is one of
Hmm.
the few that I could really be like, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
And instead of like the Seeger album where I'm like, this is not for me, and I'm not even gonna listen to it and put it on the list, Western
Hmm.
Stars just ends up where it is because I'm not a Western guy.
Yeah.
Like that's like me being like this Broadway musical sucks, but it's like no, Joe just doesn't like Broadway musicals, so like
Right.
he's not gonna enjoy it, right? Like it's fine. I definitely think he could have made me like it more. Like I said, if it was a little shorter and a
Hmm.
little less redundant, it probably could have gone up higher. But this one's not cracking the top 10 for me.
Got it. I can definitely respect that and understand it.
I don't think actually, yeah. Looking at it now, none of the albums in the tens crack the top 10 for me. And
Actually, to your point, I'd say Western Stars kind of is the album in my ranking that marks the end of the mid section. Like it's the best of the less good. Not bad, but like not quite as good albums because everything after that I think is actually great
okay,
in
gotcha.
the list. Yeah.
Okay. Everything above Western Stars for me is interesting to me.
Okay.
And so that's why Western Stars goes where it is. Whereas everything after Western Stars, I have actively negative feelings towards, if
Got it.
that makes sense. That's why like it's kind of like it's an outlier there. Yeah, like see like there's stuff like High Hopes. Like I put High Hopes above Western Stars, but that's truly because of American Skin 41 Shots.
But that's fair because Moonlight Motel's doing all that heavy lifting for me on Western Stars.
I get that, but the thing is, I don't think you hated all the songs on Western Stars the way I actively really dislike the songs on High Hopes. But the peak of American Skin is that much higher
That's
than
true.
the valleys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's why there's this weird cognitive dissonance looking at it, because High Hopes goes above Western Stars, even though I think Western Stars is technically the better album.
Mhm.
But High Hopes hit me harder because of the 8 minutes or 7 minutes of 41 Shots.
Yeah.
You know, like it's weird. It gets really, really weird and hairy. But to be fair, that's also all after like the top 10, so it doesn't really even matter.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say this too because I know it's gonna piss you off. I put Devils and Dust above Western Stars.
Thank you for listening to Filler.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Filler. If you like what you heard, please rate and review this episode to help others find it. For more recommendations and explorations of media we love, go to afterschoolspecial.xyz. Follow Filler on Blue Sky and email us at fillerpod@gmail.com. See you next time.